Hello gamers, today I'll be telling you how to build and use SOUKAKU. With my hobbies released around the corner, I figured I'd update my SOUKAKU build guide with new tips and information on how to use her and how to run her, because she's looking to be one of my hobby's best teammates. Hopefully this guide will help you figure out how to use her properly so she doesn't feel as bad to use. So let's hop into it. Starting off this guide, we have her attribute element Ice. The Ice attribute does multiple things when applying it to an enemy. Upon building up the Ice meter, you'll freeze the enemy. Once the enemy is frozen, they are inflicted with the Frostbite status and will take ice damage in the form of Shatter, based on the attack the characters use to build up the meter. The duration of this freeze will depend on the target you are attacking. Normal enemies will last roughly 3.5 seconds, while bosses and elites will last roughly 2.5 seconds. The Frostbite effect increases crit damage taken by 10% for 10 seconds. This crit damage buff is additive and not considered as damage taken. The reason covering her element is important is that it will play more into her kit and other allies such as Ellen, who appreciate the crit damage bonus. Additionally, there are a few tricks about freezing the target that are worth mentioning, such as the pausing of the stun timer and its ability to cancel certain enemy moves. While Ice isn't the best element for anomaly damage, it's still good for all your crit based characters and plays well into what SOUKAKU wants to do and who she wants to be paired with. Also, a strange thing I noticed while in the training mode is that if the enemy is set to invulnerable, they can't actually be frozen. Now to go over SOUKAKU's kit. This video is primarily focused on her being a support, so I'll not be going in depth over her basic attack, dodge, or assist skills. It is worth noting, however, her basic attack and dash attack get converted to Ice under her own Frosted Banner buff. This means SOUKAKU can be ran as a DPS with the fact that she self-buffs. During this state, her moves become faster, so that clunky feeling goes away. So, for the important part of her kit, her special move, more specifically her EX special. Her EX skill actually has multiple parts and looks at first glance quite complicated. The first part of her EX special attack is fanning mosquitoes. This gets used whenever you have enough energy, based on the energy threshold. The energy threshold is 60 energy. However, the actual attack only costs 30 energy to use. The reason for this is that you're intended to use at least 2 EX skills at one time, not more than that like many people think, which I'll get into later. This skill releases wind currents in front of SOUKAKU, dealing massive ice damage. You can press the button again to extend the skill until you've run out of energy. Upon running out of energy, or you have stopped pressing the button, she will unleash a finishing move. Now here's where the skill description gets a bit misleading, as it states during the skill's activation, anti-interrupt level increases and damage taken is reduced by 40%. This is only half true. See, in this game, all EX specials are invincible upon initial use, and despite the description, this also applies to SOUKAKU. Just like every character, SOUKAKU is invincible on startup of the move. It's only once you reach the halfway point of the swing is when the passive will activate. Double tap this skill, or use it a third or fourth time to fan wave. The part of you taking 40% reduced damage will become active, and you are no longer invincible. This confusing description, as well as many people not understanding how to play SOUKAKU, makes her feel worse. So yeah, just tap it once. More info of this in the later section of the video. Also, if you hold down the button of skill, you'll quickly transition into her alternate attack, Fly the Flag, which I'll get into in a moment. SOUKAKU has a special alternate attack called Rally, which is the real bulk of her EX skill. Holding the EX skill, SOUKAKU plunges her weapon into the ground and morphs it into a flag and launches Fly the Flag, dealing ice damage. Hitting an enemy with Fly the Flag triggers a quick assist. Pressing the basic attack button or skill after Fly the Flag is activated will launch a special attack where she retracts the flag and spins. The next part of her skill plays into her core passive, so time to explain her vortex stacks. Her vortex stacks are the 3 circular icons you see underneath her character icon on the top left of the screen. If SOUKAKU has 3 stacks of vortex whenever you use Fly the Flag, she will consume all stacks of vortex and enter the Frosted Banner state. During the Frosted Banner state, she can unleash an enhanced basic attack or enhanced dash attack, dealing massive ice damage. This effect can last up to 45 seconds or stack up to 6 times. SOUKAKU's weapon gains vortex in the following ways. You gain 1 second vortex when launching an EX special, you gain 1 second vortex when launching a chain attack, and you gain 3 stacks of vortex when launching an ultimate. SOUKAKU can accumulate up to a max of 3 stacks of vortex. It is worth mentioning though that SOUKAKU is going to be one of the biggest benefactors of the ultimate changes, being that she can now use her ultimate to gain 3 stacks of vortex and immediately transition into Fly the Flag. I'll cover more of this in a related video to the ultimate changes. Now onto SOUKAKU's chain attack. When a chain attack is triggered, select the character to activate. SOUKAKU quickly launches a series of attacks at enemies in front of her and follows up with Fly the Flag, dealing massive ice damage. The character is of course invulnerable while using the skill. Her ultimate, Jumbo Pudding Slash. Whenever your decibel rating hits maximum, press the ult button to activate. SOUKAKU quickly unleashes an extended series of strikes in front of her and follows up with Fly the Flag, dealing massive ice damage. Upon activating the skill, SOUKAKU enters the mass state and increases her crit rate by 15% for 15 seconds. As I said previously, SOUKAKU can be used as a DPS since she has so many self buffs for that reason, although I would not recommend it. Upon activating the skill, other squad members will recover 10 energy, and the next character that you switch into will recover additional 20 energy. Of course, you are invincible while using the skill. This is one of the great things about the ult changes that's going to allow us to benefit more out of SOUKAKU by allowing us to buff up characters like Ellen more by swapping into them and getting that extra energy, our example for Miyabi, right? Variety of characters can make use of this. It's a great thing that all support characters have. Now onto her core skill, Blade Banner. When SOUKAKU launches her Fly the Flag, her attack is increased by 20% of her attack up to a max of 500 for 22 seconds. When consuming Vortex during Fly the Flag, the attack increase is doubled up to a max of 1000. This buff can be passed along to characters switching in via Quick Assist or chain attacks triggered by Fly the Flag, and it refreshes the duration of the buff. Her additional ability, Group Set Meal, when another character in your squad shares the same faction or attribute. When SOUKAKU consumes Vortex to activate Fly the Flag, the ice damage of all squad members is increased by 22%. If we add everything together, SOUKAKU can give massive buffs to a given character. The buffs are as follow: 500 to 1000 combat flat attack. If you have her signature weapon, 2 to 8% combat attack, and this will max out at 12% at Refinement 5. 15% damage from a given support set, 20% ice damaging ice agents, and 10% res down if you have her M4. These are some pretty massive buffs when put together. Depending on your character's stats, you can expect anywhere from a 60 to 70% damage increase. So, on to her talent priorities. When leveling SOUKAKU, you should prioritize the core skill, as this is the thing that's going to matter, and scale your attack boost for your other characters and herself. Followed up by, you can additionally upgrade the EX special and the chain attack, as these are going to be her main sources of damage on a non-DPS build, with an optional assist attack for the day's increase. I would not recommend leveling up the basic attack or dodge unless of course you are doing a DPS build. Time to go over disk drives and stats. For slot 4, I recommend running attack percent or crit rate / crit damage depending on your build, and of course if you're doing an anomaly funny build, you can do anomaly proficiency. Attack is the main recommendation for most of these slots, mostly because you want to hit her minimum attack threshold of 2500. For slot 5, either attack or ice damage percent, of course if you're wanting to squeeze out more damage, or if you are using energy recharge, slot 6. And as for slot 6, I highly recommend doing attack percent or energy recharge. Personally, I think she's fine without the energy recharge, and it makes it much easier to hit your attack threshold and build her for damage if you do go attack for slot 6. Being that she also doesn't need much field time, you generate most of your energy passively or for when she's on field for a split second, so I find you typically don't need energy recharge, especially combined with the set bonuses that we'll be talking about. So, since the game has launched, there's been the release of multiple new sets and some new options for our characters. Well, there's a new set, specifically the Astral Voice set in the version 1.4 update, that's going to allow her to get additional attack as a 2-piece and additionally support your team by giving them damage percent on Quick Assist. However, with this set specifically, I find that SOUKAKU doesn't make the most use out of her Quick Assist, so I don't really see the benefit of this over one of the other sets. However, of course, if you are farming for Miyabi, this will be a decent 2-piece for SOUKAKU. The 4-piece set that I do highly recommend is going to be 4-piece Swinging Jazz. The 2-piece for Swinging Jazz is Energy Regen, which is going to, of course, help out with generating the energy, and the 4-piece is going to be whenever you launch a chain attack or ultimate, everybody gets 15% damage percent for 12 seconds. And of course, these effects do not stack. I find this to be the most consistent set with how SOUKAKU is played, and of course that extra 20% energy will cover your energy gains needed to use her EX skill. The other discs can be whatever you want depending on your build. Of course, 2-piece Hormone Punk with the attack percent, just like the new Astral Voice set, will be valuable, or depending on the build, you can go for 2-piece Woodpecker Electro or 2-piece Branch and Song for some extra crit stats. Of course, obviously, Polar Metal is a good set for her if you're running her DPS, or the 2-piece, of course, if you do want more damage out of her. I will give an honorable mention to the 4-piece Protopunk set, allowing you to run this defensive assist set on her and get the parries off on your stunner, and allow this to have consistent uptime will be pretty decent. However, I don't recommend it, as well you could just run this on your stunner over the 4-piece Shocker Disco. That's going to be up to the player to decide which set they want to run. And also an honorable mention to the 2-piece for Freedom Blues and Chaos Jazz being Anomaly Proficiency if you are building for Anomaly. Now, I do think it's worth giving special attention to the 4-piece Freedom Blues. 4-piece Freedom Blues is possibly one of the things that are going to get overlooked for Miyabi setups. However, this is very important to look at, especially if you are focusing around a ice-based character or whatever it may be, right? The 4-piece for Freedom Blue reads as whenever an EX special attack hits an enemy, it reduces the target's anomaly res build up for the equipper's attribute by 20% for 8 seconds. This effect does not stack with the same attribute. The reason why this is so interesting is that for Miyabi's teams is that she can actually make use of this 4-piece set, and it's going to be very powerful for her, allowing her teammates, such as Von Lycan or SOUKAKU in this case, right, to build up their ice meter faster. This is great because this means you're going to more consistently trigger those disorders for her and just have better synergy overall. This set in those scenarios can actually be viable for SOUKAKU, right? Granted, you will be dropping possibly your 4-piece of Swinging Jazz, but the 4-piece of this allowing you to build up faster can be beneficial. Now onto weapon options. The support weapons here are kind of here or there with how their passives function, with Lucy's being the primary one. However, if you do have it, I'm going to recommend using SOUKAKU's signature weapon, Bashful Demon. The reason for this is that this increases SOUKAKU's damage, which is very nice for how she wants to play, as well as giving you combat attack whenever you use an EX special. Granted, it only lasts for 12 seconds, so making use of this full uptime is kind of annoying in some cases, but since you do proc multiple EX specials, and ideally you're swapping into her whenever you can to proc another EX special, it's still pretty reliable. However, there's an alternative option for running Lucy's weapon if you do have it, since it will always have its buff active considering your other allies do count towards its passive. And on top of that, its 50% energy regen is going to be better than running an energy regen relic, so that is going to be pretty helpful in that case. Additionally, there are other options like using Rena's weapon, which I wouldn't really recommend. However, it's still a decent option, giving you a nice amount of damage bonus. It's just really not consistent with how short its buff is, and you can't even use Nicole's as a proc since SOUKAKU cannot do ether damage. Other than that, I would not recommend using anything else on her because they aren't really too good of options. If you are struggling and you're just starting out as a new player, I would recommend using the Mark III 3-star W engine, as this one is going to give you 12% combat attack for everybody whenever you do a chain attack or ultimate. This is going to be stronger than the other options. Now onto her Mindscapes. SOUKAKU has some pretty nice Mindscapes, primarily her M4 and her M1. Her M1 specifically, it increases your core passive Blade Banner and additional ability Group Set Meal buff by 8 seconds, meaning they now last for 30 seconds total. This is fantastic as you now get a longer window to actually do your full damage and have to spend less time buffing up. While I don't think it is as powerful, I will mention SOUKAKU's M2 experimental charging module. Whenever SOUKAKU does a basic attack, dash attack, dodge counter, or quick assist, she has a chance to generate a stack, 15%. Not a very good chance, so it's unreliable like I mentioned. However, it's still nice and it's a decent bonus in the case you do ever have SOUKAKU on field for longer than she has to be. Additionally, this M2 will also give you extra energy for any additional stacks SOUKAKU gains at Vortex. So if you do happen to overcap from using an extra EX skill, or if she, hits something and gets an extra stack, you're going to get a little bit of energy refunded. The main important one here is going to be her M4 hypothermia. Whenever you hit an enemy with Fly the Flag, their ice res is going to get reduced by 10%. This is fantastic for combating ice resistance, additionally increasing your damage as well if they are already weak to ice. Very nice. And then her M6 isn't really anything notable, unless of course you are going to be doing DPS SOUKAKU. So now for her teams and stuff, and really, you can run her on any team that wants to have a support character. SOUKAKU only is going to buff the one character and herself, so you need to keep that in mind when doing, multi-DPS teams, or a team that has the stunner that you're also focusing them on damage, right? Obviously, she won't be able to buff both them and the DPS, so you want to keep that in mind. SOUKAKU ideally is paired with an ice DPS such as Ellen or Miyabi, where she can give them the massive damage increase, especially when you have her M4. Additionally, SOUKAKU being ice means she pairs well with Vaughn and any other DPS in that slot, or her being a support obviously will work great with characters like Yuan or Miyabi who like to have supports in their team. Of course, in Miyabi's case, SOUKAKU's from the same faction, so it will proc anyways, but it is still worth noting. Her ideal comp is primarily Ellen Jo, Vaughn, and SOUKAKU, with obviously Miyabi working as an alternate to Ellen. Additionally, you could also sub out the stunner for Caesar in this case, however, of course you do drop your ice synergy with Lycan, meaning you'll have less ice buildup to benefit off of ice anomaly. Of course, with a lot of these teams, you can obviously replace SOUKAKU with Caesar or another support. It's just that if you do have her paired with ice character, obviously she's going to be the biggest damage increase. Of course, there's the SOUKAKU DPS team, where instead of you running a DPS, you run another support or another stunner like Qingyi to benefit off of SOUKAKU's massive attack increase and her other self buffs. And if you want to get really fancy and run something like DPS Lucy or Crit Bernice, you can of course always pair her with Lighter and Bernice or Lucy in that slot. While it won't proc your passive is only there for the ice damage percent, so this actually works if you do want to have those characters as DPS. And while she's not ideally used with some of these other characters like Nekomata, you can, like I've said previously, just use any DPS in that first slot and benefit off of her 1000 attack. Granted, obviously it's going to come at the cost of the setup, so many people find Lucy or Nicole to be better options in those teams, but it is worth noting. Alright, this part of the video is for a more visual guide in case you didn't understand at all what I was saying in the rest of the actual video. So let's just quickly go over it, right, so you can hopefully understand how to use this character properly. So the build that I would highly advise is, of course, leveling up her core skill to max. This is the thing that's going to boost your attack bonus. And of course, if you do want her to do damage, you would be doing the EX skill and the chain attack, right? These are the two that matter the most. if you are going to run her main DPS, you would level up the basic attack, right? The stats are pretty simple. You are only looking for this stat right up here, her attack. You want to get to this amount of attack. You want to be at 2,500, as this is the attack needed to max out her buff, right? That is legit all you need. No more, no less, right? That's it. That's going to max out her buff, and it's going to allow you to transfer 500 to 1,000 attack to your allies, right? Optionally, right, this is optional to do the crit rate and crit damage for, her doing DPS, right? Because she's more than just a support. She's also going to be doing damage on the side. And I would recommend, right, especially at higher investment levels, if you are trying to make your SOUKAKU better, go for this crit, right? I did mention previously you can obviously build her for anomaly stats if you want her to. And hell, I would arguably recommend doing that for my Abby setups because of, the 4-piece Freedom Blues reducing the enemy's anomaly build up to ice, right? It's going to help your Vaughn and SOUKAKU, build up, their ice faster, which is going to be great for my Abby, right? So it's going to be up to you whether or not you want to do that. If you do run an anomaly setup, you could still go crit and you just ignore your anomaly stats, right? It's really here or there. Or you could, of course, just sub in your slot 6 or mastery and go double attack, right? Slot 5 attack and slot 4 attack, right? It's going to be up to you, just as long as you do hit this minimum attack threshold, right? And the reason why her weapon is so important is because it gives attack, right? The secondary stat for her weapon is attack percent. It's 25% attack. It's going to help you get to that level that you actually need, right? Now, I actually do have attack slot 6, ice damage slot 5, and slot 4 is crit rate, I believe, is what I have. I'm forgetting right now. But we can actually see on the stats right here, right? That's the stats I'm getting with, crit damage and attack, right? I would actually recommend for most people to do double attack at least, right? Oh, maintenance is about to start. Well, that's fantastic. I would recommend most people to do double attack, so like you would do attack slot 5 and attack slot 6, right? However, if you do want her to use her EX skill more, you can definitely do attack slot 4 and attack slot 5 and put ER rope in slot 6. That's going to be up to you, but I personally recommend building her for more damage, and I do personally enjoy having her do more damage. That's why you can see I have her on 2-piece crit and 4-piece of the energy regen set, which is going to give me chain attack damage, or it's going to be damage percent whenever I do chain attack or ultimate with how she's played, right? So it's pretty simple, self-explanatory. It's not really much more complex than that. If you do have questions, ask it down below. I will be live streaming for my Abby and doing all this stuff later today, so look forward to that. But yeah, to do a quick example of how to play SOUKAKU, a lot of people get caught up on SOUKAKU and like how she's played. They think she's slow, or they don't like how her skill works. I'm gonna be real, like I said earlier in the video, just don't swap off of her in animation cancel. It's really that simple, right? Obviously, you're gonna need to adapt your rotation to the situation, right? And that's how it is for a lot of these characters. But for SOUKAKU specifically, you can activate her skill from across the map. You don't need to be up against the enemy and hit them with her skill. You can be across the map and still get the stacks, right? You can be here, and then you just tap, animation cancel, right? And now you swap characters to continue doing your setup, right? You only ever need to get 1 to 2 stacks. And by 1 to 2, well, maybe you're relying on the M2. Even if it's not good, right? The M2 still has a chance to give you an extra stack whenever you hit with your basic and so on, right? That's primarily for her DPS setup, to be honest with you, but this is how you would play SOUKAKU. You do your thing, and then you just never go on her again, right? Because she's only there to buff. Now, of course, there is the, thing that a lot of people will do, and they'll, of course, hold the skill down, in case you didn't understand earlier in the video, just to get the quick buff. And 100% you can do that, right? So you can just be playing her in a rotation. You'll see this in a lot of people doing faster clears with SOUKAKU, is they'll initially set up at the start of the phase, do 2 swipes, and then use a chain attack into her to get the last one, and buff Ellen going into the next phase, because Ellen will start with the buffs. Or you get all 3, right? And you just go into here and activate her quick assist, right? And so now you start the fight basically with her full buff, and you've got everything ready to go, and then you can just do your normal DPS rotation with, Ellen, and have 0 problems with that, like so, right? You're just gonna go into this to quickly reactivate all the buffs, right? And so on. So yeah, again, there shouldn't be too many problems with actually doing her DPS rotation, right? I know there's a lot of people that do not like playing as her, but it shouldn't really be that big of an issue when you finally get your hands on it and do practice with her, right? Because at the end of the day, right, the only thing I can really tell you is that if you do have any issues with her, right, and like if it's battle tower, because I know people will go on skill, right? They'll skill her and then they'll swap off, but she's still on field, she'll get hit, right? realistically, what you should do is what I've been saying. It's like use skill, animation cancel, and then swap, right? That's what you should be doing. So hopefully that helps you solve any problems you have with SOUKAKU. Don't forget to like, subscribe, check me out on Twitch, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh, also, I might have forgot like how to explain it exactly, right, for SOUKAKU. So I'll throw this in at the very end. My apologies. So what you want to do, right, or what you should be doing is to animation cancel her, right? You can see this is her normal animation for the skill, right? Where it's this long swing, or if you were to do multiple skills, right, it does, that. What you should be doing, right, and what I'm recommending is for you to hit this and basically anywhere in the animation, but like the in-between frames, which is going to sound kind of weird, you can animation cancel. So if you start it up, you can animation cancel it, which I messed up, right? But I know you God damn it, I'm making myself look a fool. Okay, look, point is, what I'm trying to say is that you want to animation cancel it right as the fan goes by. The fan goes by, and then you dodge, right, to animation cancel it. This will still give you the stack. There's a few cases where she might have a bug and she won't actually be able to do the second swipe, which I've had happen before, but point is, right, you swipe and dodge, right, just to animation cancel it, because you don't want to waste your time with her on field to do the rest of the animation. It's really that simple. And the hold skill, the whole rally thing that I was talking about during the video, is that, right? You literally hold the button, right? And that's how you activate it. Using that rally is going to activate all your buffs. And if you hit a target with the rally, it's going to activate a quick assist, right? Most people, or at least in most of the time in my use, I never actually use this part of the quick assist. I only use her into a chain attack to apply all the buffs, right? That's really about it. So as what I've said, right? It's swipe, animation cancel, swap, and then you do your rotation as is. You get a stun, you chain attack to get that third stack. She's going to automatically rally from the chain attack and give your buffs to the other person, right? So yeah, that's really about it.